In my last video, CD 66, we started discussing the IRAC norms, income recognition and asset classification norms, and the amount of provisioning to be made. Now, while this video series 67, let us learn the classification of assets, that is the classification of loans and advances in different categories, and also calculation of the amount of provision to be made in different types of assets. What we are going to understand is, first one, the classification of loans and advances in different categories, the calculation of the amount of provision to be made in different types of assets, and the calculation of amount of provision in cases which are covered by credit guarantee fund trust scheme for micro and small enterprises and advances guaranteed by Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. Let us first understand the broad classification of the assets of the bank. The assets are classified into two categories. One is called a performing asset and the other one is called non-performing asset. By asset, I mean the loans and advances granted by bank. Now let us understand what is meant by a performing asset and what is meant by a non-performing asset. A performing asset generates income to the bank. For example, the loans and advances granted by the bank to different types of borrowers earn interest to the bank. And as you are aware, the largest income of any bank in India is the interest it receives on the loans and advances. The performing assets are also called standard assets. That means standard assets generates income to the bank. The standard asset is an asset where there are no continuous overdue for a period exceeding 90 days. There may be overdue within 90 days here and there, but continuously if you look at, there are no overdue for a period exceeding 90 days. That means it is not a non-performing asset. Similarly, if it is a running account like a cash credit or overdraft, there is no continuous out of order position for a period exceeding 90 days. So if there is no overdue or if there is no out of order position continuously for a period exceeding 90 days and that asset continues to generate income to the bank, we call it as a performing asset or as a standard asset. Now let us understand what is meant by a non-performing assets. Naturally, the asset which ceases to generate income to the bank, it has stopped giving any income to the bank. And not only that, the non-performing assets eats away the profit generated by the performing assets. The bank has made profit out of the income received from the performing assets, and I have to make a provision for bad debts. That means my profit to that extent is eaten away by the provision that is to be made on non-performing assets. As it ages, the recoverability reduces. That means if it is a non-performing asset, say for a period of 2 years it remained, and afterwards it moves into the third or fourth year, the recoverability decreases as a non-performing asset. Age of the non-performing asset increases. Now, the non-performing assets are divided into three categories. The first one is called the substandard, the second one is called doubtful asset, and third one is called loss assets. How do we classify is the assets are classified based on the period for which the asset has remained as a non-performing and also the realizability of the dues. Say for example, a substandard asset is a one which has remained in NPA for a period less than or equal to 12 months. Suppose say today, the 20th of this month, the account has become an NPA, means till 20th of the next year of the same month, it will continue to remain as a substandard. The moment it crosses the 12 months period, it becomes a doubtful category. That is from the date of NPA, say first 12 months it is a substandard asset. The moment it completes the 12 months, it moves to what is called as a doubtful category. The next one is a loss asset, but loss asset is not after doubtful asset. Please do remember it. So when I say standard, substandard, doubtful, the loss can occur anytime. Now, let us understand the movement of NPA to substandard and doubtful category. How does it move? Now look at here, account identified as NPA. From that date, substandard asset is next to 12 months. Then it becomes doubtful. In the doubtful, there are three categories: doubtful 1, doubtful 2, and doubtful 3. Doubtful 1 means next to 12 months. That is, first 12 months in doubtful category is D1. Or first 24 months after identification of NPA is D1. The next 24 months is doubtful 2. That is, the moment a account has become a doubtful asset, that is D1, first 12 months it remains as D1 and then it moves to D2 and remains there as D2 for a period of 24 months. The moment an asset remains in doubtful for a period of 36 months, that is D1 12 and D2 24, it moves to D3. Now look here very clearly, an asset which generates income to the bank is a standard asset, that is before the date of NPA. The moment the asset has become overdue or remained as out of order position for a period exceeding 90 days, it has become an NPA. We have identified that account to be an NPA. From the date of NPA, first 12 months it remains as a substandard. Next 12 months it remains as D1. Next 24 months it remains as D2. The moment the 24 months expires, it moves into D3. So if I calculate from the date of NPA, for the first 12 months substandard, from the date of NPA 24 months D1, from the date of NPA 48 months D2, once it crosses 48 months it moves to D3. The standard asset is not coming after D3. Any standard asset can become a loss asset. Any substandard asset can become a loss asset. Any doubtful asset can become a loss asset. So never understand that loss is after doubtful. Now normal movement of NPA, let us see. Standard asset, then it becomes a substandard asset, then it becomes a doubtful 1, doubtful 2, doubtful 3. Now look here, a standard asset, this is a normal way of movement, but it could also be possible a standard asset can straight away go to doubtful, a substandard asset can go to doubtful, a standard asset can go to a loss asset, and a substandard asset can also go to loss asset. Now the standard asset has become a doubtful asset bypassing the substandard asset. The reason is In accounts where there are potential threats for recovery on account of erosion in the value of the security or non-availability of security. Say for example, when we have gone for inspection, we found that absolutely no stock is available, but the cash credit account shows some balance, debit balance, which means the account needs to be moved from standard to doubtful assets. Or there is an erosion in the value of the security. Say for example, there was a machinery against which we have given finance. When we have gone there, we found that the machinery is broke down and the probability of its getting repaired is very remote. So there is an erosion in the value of the security. So in such cases, a standard asset or a substandard asset can move straight into the doubtful category also. Standard asset or substandard asset can move straight into the loss asset also. There are existence of other factors such as a fraud committed. Suddenly the borrower had removed all the machinery from the factory premises, or he has sold the entire stock of goods which were charged to the bank without the knowledge of the fact. He has committed a fraud. In such cases, a standard or substandard asset can straight away move to the loss asset. So let us understand, normal movement is standard assets, substandard assets, D1, D2, D3. And standard to loss, substandard to loss, doubtful to loss, standard to doubtful, substandard to doubtful, that is also possible. Now, having understood when and how an asset deteriorates from standard to substandard, substandard to D1, D1 to D2, D2 to D3, or standard to doubtful, or substandard to doubtful, or standard to loss, or substandard to loss, or doubtful to loss, let us now go into looking at how do we make the amount of provision. I have told you earlier, provisioning is nothing but an amount set aside from the profit of the bank to meet the likely losses which may occur on account of non-performing assets. As I told you, the provisioning eats the profit of the bank. That means higher the provision, higher the loss or lower the profit. So let us now understand what is meant by provisioning, what is its effects on profitability, and what is meant by general provision, and what is meant by credit guarantee fund trust scheme for micro and small enterprises and export credit guarantee corporation covered accounts. How do we make provision? First of all, let us first understand, even for the standard assets, which are performing assets, where there is no out of order or overdue position exceeding 90 days, banks are required to make provision. But the amount of provision or the percentage of provision to be made is very nominal compared to that of a substandard or doubtful or loss asset category. Banks should make general provision for standard assets. When we say general provision, it is not account specific. We will take the entire portfolio of the standard assets, and then the entire asset portfolio is divided into 5 categories, and the amount of provision is a percentage of the balance outstanding in that account as on the date on which I make provision. And we make provision always as at the end of each quarter, that is March quarter, June quarter, September quarter, and December quarter. Now, value of the security available or availability of credit guarantee fund trust scheme or EGC guarantee are not taken into account while making provision for standard assets. In standard assets, we look into only the balance outstanding and the category to which it belongs to. That's all. It is a percentage of the balance outstanding in different categories. Now, what is the subclassification of the standard assets? That is into 5 categories. Let us look at that. The standard assets are subclassified into farm credit, micro and small enterprises, commercial real estate, residential housing schemes, all others. So there are, when we look at the entire standard assets are divided into 5 categories. They are farm credit, micro and small credit, commercial real estate. There is a builders, building construction projects, residential projects. Then commercial real estate, residential housing. That means home buyers, housing loans, and all others are the 5 categories of standard assets. Now let us know how do we make provision. Farm credit to agricultural activities, the percentage of provision to be made is 0.25% of the balance outstanding. When it comes to advance to small and micro enterprises, please note here that medium enterprises is not included here. Only we are talking about advances to micro and small enterprises. The percentage of provision is again 0.25% of the balance outstanding. When it comes to advances to commercial real estate, that is the building projects, it is 1% of the balance outstanding. When it comes to advances to commercial real estate, residential housing sector, it is 0.75% of the balance outstanding. All other loans and advances not included above. The percentage of provision to be made in case of a standard asset is 0.4% of balance outstanding. As I have told you, the medium enterprises is also included under the other category. That means the amount of provision to be made for standard assets which are under medium enterprises is 0.4% of the balance outstanding. Now let us go to the substandard assets. In the substandard also it is a general provision. When I say general provision means substandard assets will be classified into 2 categories. The balance outstanding will be taken, and in the balance outstanding, a percentage of the balance outstanding will be the amount of provision. Here again, we don't reckon the value of the security or the availability of credit guarantee, fund trust scheme, micro small enterprises guarantee, or the ECGC guarantee into account while making provisions. Now, how do we classify the substandard into 2 categories? One I told you, secured substandard and unsecured substandard. Substandard assets are classified again into secured substandard. In that case, 15% of the balance outstanding is the amount of provision to be made. When it comes to unsecured substandard asset, the provision to be made is 25% of the balance outstanding. So, when it moves from secured substandard to unsecured substandard, the percentage of provision increases by 10%. Now, what is meant by the unsecured? What is meant by security? Let us understand that first. The RBI has defined unsecured exposure as an exposure where the realizable value of the security as assessed by the bank or approved valuer or the Reserve Bank's inspecting officers is not more than 10% ab initio of the outstanding exposure. Security will mean tangible security properly discharged to the bank and will not include intangible securities like guarantees, including state government guarantees, comfort letters, etc. Now, so for example, which says when the value of the security falls below 10% of the exposure, it becomes unsecured exposure. Now you look here, if the debit balance outstanding in an account is 5 lakhs and the value of the security is 40,000, the exposure of 5 lakh is treated as unsecured exposure, which means if that 5 lakh account has become an NPA and is remaining in substandard, we have to make provision for 25% of 5 lakhs. The reason being, it is an unsecured exposure. The value of the security has fallen below 50,000. I think now it is very clear what is meant by substandard category, and within the substandard category what is meant by secured substandard and unsecured substandard. Now let us now move to the next category, doubtful assets. The doubtful asset we have already discussed that it is divided into three categories. One is D1, D2 and D3. The movement of substandard to D1, D1 to D2 and from D2 to D3, how it happens? That is, we have understood that as long as there is no out of order or overdue position for a period exceeding 90 days, the account is a standard asset. Now the account is identified as an NPA, it becomes a substandard. In the substandard, it may be a secured substandard or unsecured substandard. From there, it now moves to doubtful category. In the doubtful category, there are three, D1, D2 and D3. How from substandard to D1, D2, D3 movement happens? Doubtful asset, first 12 months from the date of becoming D1. That is, date of NPA, first 12 months, substandard. The moment it remains as a substandard for 12 months, it completes 12 months in substandard, it has become D1 and remains there for 12 months or 24 months from the date of NPA. When it comes to D2, the moment it completes 12 months in D1, it moves to D2. The asset remains in D2 for the next 24 months or 36 months from the date of becoming doubtful. Becoming doubtful means it has already remained in D1 for 12 months. Now it is going to remain for 24 months in D2. So 36 months or 48 months on the date of NPA. When you take it from the date of NPA, first 12 months substandard, next 12 months D1, next 24 months D3. So totally 48 months. And when it becomes D3, the asset becomes D3 the moment it crosses 24 months in D2 or 36 months in doubtful category or on completion of 48 months as NPA. Now let us understand how to make a provision for doubtful assets D1 and D2. Let us understand what is meant by the value of security and the shortfall in security. We are now not discussing D3 category, we are discussing only D1 and D2 category. I have told you in my last video that in D1 and D2, the value of the security available is also considered while making the amount of provision. In the case of standard assets, it is a percentage of the balance outstanding. In the case of a substandard, it is a percentage of the balance outstanding. But when it comes to D1 and D2, we also take into account the value of the security available there to calculate the amount of provision which we need to make in D1 and D2 category. Now you look here, for D1 and D2 category asset, one is the value of the security and two, the shortfall in value of the security are considered while making provisions. Now what is meant by shortfall in security? Now you look here, a case where the advance is guaranteed by Credit Guarantee Fund Trust Scheme for micro and small enterprises or the Export Credit Guarantee Corporation guarantee is available. There the shortfall in security means take the exposure, that is a balance outstanding, minus value of the security, whatever may be the security that is available, again minus what is the amount that is receivable from the CGFT MSC or ECGC. So shortfall in security means the exposure, there is a balance outstanding minus value of the security available minus the amount of guarantee receivable from CGFT MSC or ECGC. Now, how to make the provision? What is the percentage of provision that need to be made for the secured portion and for the shortfall in security portion in D1 and D2? The percentage of provision to be made in D1 and D2 category of assets the percentage of provision to be made for the shortfall in security is 100% both for D1 and D2. Whereas the percentage of provision to be made for the secured portion is 25% for assets classified as D1 and 40% for assets classified as D2 category. So when it comes to D1 and D2 category, we need to understand two things. The value of the security is taken into account, and if there is a guarantee available either from the CGFT MSC or from the ECGC available, that is also taken into account. Suppose the guarantee is not available, even then the value of the security is reckoned in case of D1 and D2. For the shortfall in security, irrespective of whether it remains in D1 or D2, the percentage of provision to be made is 100%. And for the secured portion, if it is remaining in D1, it is 25% of the value of the security, and when it moves to D2, naturally the amount of provision to be made will be higher. It is 40% of the value of the security. Now let us go to the D3 category. The percentage of provision to be made in case of assets classified as D3 is 100% of the balance outstanding. That means an account which has been identified as NPA 48 months before moves to D3. You need not reckon into the value of the security or guarantee available, etc. Straight away make a provision of 100% of the balance outstanding as amount of provision for D3 category. And also understand, an account may be in an unsecured category in doubtful assets. Like I have told you, in the case of a substandard asset, when it is an unsecured substandard, the provision to be made is 25% of the balance outstanding. But in doubtful category, if the value of the security falls below 10% of the balance outstanding, the doubtful account also becomes an unsecured doubtful. When it becomes an unsecured doubtful, the provision to be made is 100% of the balance outstanding without reckoning either value of the security or guarantee cover available. Now let us move on to a numerical example where I will show you how to calculate the amount of provision in D1, D2 and D3 category. Look here, there is a balance outstanding in an advance account classified as doubtful is 60 lakhs. That is, the exposure is 60 lakhs. The advance is secured by mortgage of a property worth 20 lakhs. That means we have a security which is mortgaged to the bank and the value is 20 lakhs. Now, what is the shortfall in security? 60 minus 20, 40. Or I would say it is the unsecured portion. Now, when the advance is classified as D1, here we are talking about a D1 and D2 and D3 category where there is no guarantee cover available either from credit guarantee fund trust scheme or from the ECGC. Now here the shortfall in security is 40. Now you look here, when the advance is classified as D1, the amount of provision made is 25% of the value of the security. That is 25% into 20 plus what is the shortfall? 40. 100% of the shortfall. So total amount to be made is 45 lakhs. Now assume that the account is in D2. Then it is 40% of the secured portion. That is 40% into 20 plus shortfall is again 40. That is 100% of 40. The amount of provision has increased from 45 to 48 when it moved from D1 to D2. Now the advance is classified as D3. That is, it has remained in doubtful category for a period of 36 or as an NPA for 48 months. Straight away, don't look at the security at all. 100% of the balance outstanding. That is straight away 60 lakhs. Suppose the balance outstanding in an advance account classified as doubtful is 60 lakhs. The value of the security is 5 lakhs. The account is either in D1 or D2 category. What is the amount of provision to be made? Please look here. The account, let it be in D1 or D2. Since the value of the security has fallen below 10% of the exposure, less than 6 lakhs, then what does it mean? It has become an unsecured doubtful assets. When it has become an unsecured doubtful assets, we need not look at anything. We have to straight away make a provision of 100% of the balance outstanding. So in this case, the balance outstanding will be 60 lakhs is the balance outstanding, 100% of that is 60 lakhs. Now let us look at the cases. What is meant by loss assets? Loss assets could be two cases. One, a fraud. Number two, somebody identified that exposure as a loss. Let us now look at that. Provisioning norms in respect of all cases of fraud. The entire amount due to the bank, irrespective of the quantum of security held against such assets, is to be provided for over a period not exceeding 4 quarters, commencing with the quarter in which the fraud has been detected. The amount of provision to be made or the percentage of provision to be made is 100% of the balance outstanding. Suppose an account which is having a balance outstanding or an exposure of 20 lakhs, a fraud is found, means I have to make a provision of straight away 20 lakhs. But I am given the freedom to make the provisions in fraud quarters. That is the rate of say 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 5 lakhs. And loss asset is, we have seen that a standard asset can become a loss asset, or a substandard can straight away become a loss asset, or a doubtful can also become a loss asset. It doesn't move after D3. A loss asset is one where loss has been identified by the bank or internal or external auditors or by the RBI inspection, but the amount has not been written off OD. The moment we have detected that an account or an exposure has become a loss asset, we are supposed to write it off. If you have not written it off, then you have to make a provision of 100%. So like in the case of a D3 or like in the case of an unsecured doubtful asset, the provision to be made in case of a loss asset is also 100%. Now we are going to discuss with a numerical example, how do we calculate the amount of provision to be made in case of D1 and D3 category of assets, where there is a credit guarantee fund trust scheme for micro and small enterprises or ECGC guarantee is available. The procedure for doing that is very simple. First, take the exposure or the balance outstanding and deduct the value of the security from the exposure and arrive at the unsecured portion. Now, deduct the amount of guarantee receivable from the credit guarantee fund trust scheme for micro and small enterprises or ECGC, which is a percentage of the unsecured portion that you will deduct from the unsecured portion. Arrive at the shortfall in security. Now the provision to be made is 25% of D1 or 40% in case of D2 of the security plus 100% of shortfall in security. Let us see how do we arrive in two cases. Now look at a case where there is a credit guarantee scheme is available. Balance outstanding is 10 lakhs. There is a security which is available and the value of the security is 1.5 lakhs. And the account is covered under credit guarantee fund trust scheme for micro and small enterprises, where let us assume that the guarantee cover available is 75% of the balance outstanding. Now you look here, the balance outstanding is taken 10 lakhs. From there, the value of the security is deducted. The unsecured portion is 8.5 lakhs. On that 8.5 lakhs, you get 75% as a guarantee cover, 6.38. So how much is available to the bank, and or what is the amount likely to be lost? We have a security is worth 1.5 lakhs. We have a guarantee amount to be received 6.38 lakhs. So my loss will be 2.12 lakhs, or that is the shortfall in security. So when I am making a provision, 25% of the value of the security, because it is in D1 category, because the account is classified as D1. So 25% of the 1.5 plus 100% of 2.12, because 2.12 is the shortfall in security. This is in respect of D1 category. Now when it moves to D2, calculation is the same, the balance outstanding. From there you deduct the value of the security held, you arrive at the unsecured portion. On the unsecured portion, you arrive at the amount of guarantee receivable, find out the shortfall in security. Only difference is, because the account is classified as D2, the first item will be 40% of the value of the security plus 100% of the shortfall in security. This is how we calculate the amount of provision to be made in D1 and D2 category of assets where there is a guarantee cover available either from the credit guarantee funder scheme for micro and small enterprises or from ECGC. I think you have understood. With this, we have covered the IRAC norms. I am a banker with 28 years of experience. I joined a public sector bank as a PO and then retired as a DGM credit from a private sector bank. In addition to this, I have also worked as a senior faculty in one of the reputed training college, teaching subjects starting from basics of lending to corporate finance and also risk management. If you have understood this, if you have liked it, please subscribe to this channel and I will come out with similar topics in banking, in particular lending, in the days to come. Thank you very, very much.